Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Corey Siskin. I'm the CEO of Base Operations, and I'm very excited to welcome you to this session on the new paradigm in threat scoring. We're going to be exploring BaseScore, which is our dynamic next generation risk scoring system that's transforming how organizations assess and respond to security threats, protect their people and assets. So we'll get into all of that. A few housekeeping items. First, hit the Q&A button in the control panel as we go in, throughout our discussion, throughout our demo. If you have any questions, we would love to take them at the end. And also, if you're particularly interested in what you're seeing, head to baseoperations.com, book a demo, and we will do a tailored demo for you with your organization in mind. So welcome. Quick overview of our agenda today and what we'll be covering. We're going to meet our panelists. We'll be going over just an introduction to BaseScore, move into a discussion about the current state of threat scoring, and then actually get into the Base Operations platform and do a demo of the BaseScore functionality, and we'll end with Q&A. So let us get to our panelists. As I mentioned, I'm Corey Siskin. I'm the founder and CEO of Base Operations. We're also joined by Danny Essner, who is our VP of Marketing here at Base Operations. He will be hosting and hosting the Q&A section. So thank you so much for helping out today, Danny. Our first panelist is Eric Boger. I can't think of anyone I've met who has a broader understanding of the security industry and its landscape, having viewed it from many different vantage points and many different providers. So welcome, Eric. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, Eric Boger, the CEO and founder of Decode Risk, which is an advisory firm based out of Australia, Sydney, Australia, just recently, about a month ago. What's pertinent in my background to this discussion is that I was formerly at Everbridge. I left as the head of their 24/7 Risk Intelligence Center. Prior to that, I was at Ontic, and then before that, Everbridge again. But then at iJet WorldAware, which is now Crisis 24, ran their 24/7 intelligence operation as well. And then a long time ago, I was a line analyst myself. The Horn of Africa was my area of responsibility. So I've been doing risk intelligence or running teams for about 20 years now.
Amazing. Thank you. And Sasha, of course, is Base Operations VP of Product. I have the pleasure of working with Sasha on a daily basis. Sasha, can you tell us a little bit about your background, especially as it pertains to the experience that has allowed you to shepherd BaseScore into existence?
Yeah, thanks, Corey. I come from a background of working on products that take into account very large data sets and really trying to bring AI, machine learning, and just intuitive interactions with that data to folks who may not have supportive data scientists, maybe our non-technical teams, but ultimately trying to make these large data sets useful for folks. And in coming to Base Operations, it was really exciting to take those skills and apply them to the physical security space. Base Operations has, tens of thousands of data sources, millions, if not billions of data points to take into account, and really excited to talk today about how we're utilizing that for BaseScore.
Amazing. Thank you. So for those of you who are not familiar with Base Operations, let me start with a very quick overview. So Base Operations is a global security intelligence platform designed to help organizations proactively manage physical threats by transforming vast amounts of data into actionable insights. We are in that left of boom category, to use industry speak, which means we help our customers prepare, predict, and prevent incidents rather than just responding to them. So a little bit different than many of the vendors and technologies in the space. How we do that is we aggregate information from tens of thousands of sources worldwide, giving corporate security teams a comprehensive view of risk across their entire footprint. And our platform allows our users to build support from everything from continuous threat monitoring to strategic planning, equipping security leaders with the tools they need to make smarter, faster decisions. So that's the kind of 101 on base operations. With that out of the way, we're here to focus today on BaseScore, which is our cutting edge risk scoring system that I mentioned before. It brings a new level of clarity and speed to understanding security risks. So we provide via BaseScore an intuitive 0 to 100 scoring system that helps you quickly assess a location's risk profile and make more informed decisions, whether it's site selection, travel policies, resource allocation, just giving you sort of a quick heuristic for what to know about a location, but deeply based in our proprietary modeling and analytics. So what makes base operations or BaseScore unique is the way it combines geographic, population, and comprehensive crime and unrest data to generate a standardized risk assessment within a sub-mile radius that you can select as a user. So that allows for detailed comparisons across locations. It also continually updates with new data, so you're always working with the latest insights. And of course, it integrates with the rest of the base operations analytics and dashboard. So essentially with BaseScore, you can understand risk level changes over time and adapt your security priorities, measures, et cetera, dynamically. So that's the high level overview. Sasha will be walking us through many more of the details, and we'll be digging into the platform with Sasha. But first, to bring in our discussion and our panelists, let me stop sharing so we can see everyone's beautiful faces. Eric, let's start with you. So you've been in the industry for more than 20 years. You've worked in so many different of the sort of primary providers in the space. And you've probably talked to every corporate security department out there. What are the acute pains and problems that you see corporate security teams facing today?
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, obviously every team is going to have its own challenges, but I'd say there's a couple of high-level concepts that will apply across the board. For the sake of ease of memory, I tried to come up with a mental trick. I'm calling them the 4 A's, which is anticipate, absorb, allocate, and articulate, right? And so on the anticipate side, we're seeing a lot of security teams, decision makers, stakeholders are starting to realize that intelligence-enabled teams allow them to anticipate problems, not just react and respond to them. So success begets success. The more problems you help anticipate, the more proactive you are in your stance, the more that those stakeholders are going to come and ask questions about what's going to happen next. What should I be anticipating in my operating area? So that ability to be proactive is a pressure and a pain point that teams are feeling. When you're doing that, when you're looking to anticipate what could be occurring in your environment, you need to do some horizon scanning. You need to maintain situational awareness, which means that there's a lot of information to absorb. You've got to bring it in. You've got to make sense of it. And the challenge there is it's too much for almost every team. So people need to find tools, processes, workflows that allow them to separate good from bad and really take in the information that'll be impactful to their organization. Lastly is allocate. Well, not lastly, next is allocate. One of the most scarce resources that a team can have is its attention and its focus. And so being able to determine what do we need to care about, what do we need to prioritize today is something that's challenging a number of teams as well. And lastly, articulate. Teams are finding an opportunity to present higher up into the organization, to senior stakeholders, and being able to put their findings, their assessments into easy to calibrate language, professional language that's good for a layperson, or even business speak, making sure that you are articulating back to the organization, we understand what it takes the business to run this business, and we're here to help you enable business. So teams are feeling pressure to see what's coming, make sense of available data, focus on what matters most, and then communicate it in a way that drives action.
Thank you. I love a neat framework.
4 A's, come on.
Amazing. A+ on that framework. I'd love to double click on your second A, on allocate. Why, especially now, why is prioritization of time and resources so important in our industry?
And I think it's important to take a look back at the function of intelligence within security programs. We're talking about intelligence-led security programs. At its essence, intelligence is about decision support, supporting a decision. And organizations have a wide variety of decisions, from the strategic, should we enter this market, to the operational, where should we be buying our next facility, to the very tactical, if we're sending travelers to this location, should we warn them about the park that looks like on a map it would be a great jogging area, but we know that it's actually not safe after dark. So those decisions that you're supporting lead you to figure out, well, what do we need to be answering? How do we set up our priority intelligence requirements so that we can better understand the environment? And that leads us to a second concept, which in the military is called intel preparation of the battle space, right? And here, what we're doing for our clients is creating an intel prep for the operational space, trying to get as much understanding of where we're going to be operating, sending people, or doing business, so that we can start to make decisions around what information we need to provide to the rest of the organization so that they can make more effective business decisions. And then finally, prioritization is really important because almost every security program I've come across is constantly facing budget cuts or budget tightness or do more with less. And so this idea of having a focus to say, we're going to, maintain awareness about these 7 problems that are the most acute today. If we get to the other ones, great. But that need to focus and finding tools that allow for a prioritization in the workflow is extremely important for teams that are overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think that last point is undeniable in the industry, and there's sort of an occasional exception to that rule when there's like more focus and priority on security maybe after a particular incident, but in general it's just like it's a resource constrained industry on a regular basis. So thinking about I love your framework. So 1 and 4 around anticipating and articulating, let's get into sort of the details around process related to planning, predicting, and preventing within the security industry. So the teams that we talk to frequently are doing risk assessments on sort of a fixed schedule, if anything. Like they're either just reacting when incidents have happened, or they're working on a fixed schedule. They're trying to do threat assessments of their entire footprint on like a quarterly basis or at some regular interval, and through that produce insights and recommendations. What is the risk of that model, and why is it critical for them to be able to get a sort of directional level understanding of risk faster, within minutes?
Yeah, I think the main challenge is that if you are being pushed to anticipate what's happening in a business environment, an operating environment, if you're counting on a lot of the fixed tools that have a fixed schedule, they update the data once a year. It's like trying to drive into the future looking only in the rearview mirror, right? And so you're not really able to create a picture of where things are headed. You captured something one point in time, but you're not really, if you're only doing it annually or quarterly, you're not really getting that ability to start to focus on what may be coming. Similarly, if you are getting updates in a weekly basis or a daily basis, that does allow for that allocation of attention, right? Hey, I know that I need to focus on this particular property or this location because the trends that I'm getting week over week are showing me that there's a deterioration. Rather than waiting to the year end and say, boy, wow, that's a much more challenging environment. You can start to do allocation of resource decisions. Should we change our guard force? Should we change our campus access policies because there's a swing in crime in the neighborhood? So really allowing you to detect trends allows you to do that anticipation work better. And then on the allocation of resources, being able to sense where you should be focusing. And then on the articulation, having a regularized score that over time allows you to say, hey, a couple weeks ago, this is what we were seeing. Now we are. I think that ability to communicate that to other decision makers and other stakeholders allows for a more logical flow than just every year saying, here's our list of 700 sites that we've looked at in the last couple months. I think there's a better way. And then finally, on the absorbing data, right? If you're trying to do a risk assessment with all the data that's out there without a tool that can streamline it, it's taken hours, right? You're going to have to go to every law enforcement. You're going to have to go to public safety agencies. You're going to have to go to open sources, bring all that data in, compile it. And that's just for one location. So that's taking multiple hours for a single location, which isn't the best use of your resources.
Makes sense. Sasha, I'd love to pull you in on this part of the discussion. I mean, you spend all day talking to our customers, to prospects, to leaders in the industry. Before BaseScore, how were you observing security teams leveraging scores, and what were the limitations of scoring tools that caused you and the rest of the base operations team to bring BaseScore into being?
Yeah. So threat scores are something that the industry is absolutely familiar with. We often heard that these scores were leveraged alongside additional tools such as base operations because the score itself was not enough to really create a holistic understanding of what the threat landscape was, whether that be for something like executive protection or site assessment. And when digging in on those current challenges, what was happening in the market, we frequently heard a few different things. One was the concern about data. I think Eric touched upon this. Where's the data coming from? How frequently is it updated? How much time are we spending to acquire supplemental information? And with this, it didn't allow for a truly comparative experience across locations or even across countries, if that's where you were looking to really understand your footprint. These sorts of challenges led to a lack of street level understanding of threats because the scores couldn't be customized to the types of threats that were most relevant either to that assessment that was being done, to the incident that occurred, or even to the type of location that folks wanted to be looking at. And finally, we heard a lot of concerns about not being able to get scores for all locations. And sometimes this is a lack of the capabilities for the solution that they're using that's in market today, or because of things like budgetary constraints. We're only allowed X number of scores per year. So I have to be very stingy with my team on where we're using it for site assessments, on where we're using it for incidents, to make sure that by the end of the year, we have enough capacity to still be able to pull these scores. And ultimately, what we wanted to do was bridge those gaps with our solutions, really bring them into the enterprise. We wanted to keep the positives of having a single score. There's a lot that resonates with that. And we wanted to keep that positive feeling where folks could take it to their leadership team or folks outside of their security team and have it be well understood. But what we wanted to do was really update that old-fashioned approach to one-off reports. We wanted to not have people be required to pick and choose which locations got scores and which ones didn't. And we wanted to bring it into a single solution. So we didn't want them to have to go into base ops in order to create that holistic understanding. We wanted it to kind of all live within one single pane of glass. So what we did is we really focused on how to create a score that really takes into account observed risk. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that that's available on the street level, the district level, the city level, even the country level, with that 0 to 100 understanding, and to be able to leverage this huge data set that we have available. So we knew we could up-level scoring through things like customizability, looking at which threat types are most pertinent, and through timely updates. Those were two kind of things that we saw as low-hanging fruit. But then when we really thought about the data set and the robustness of the score that we could provide, we knew that we would be able to take it to the next level and bring insights through BaseScore that the industry really hadn't seen before.
Thanks, Sasha. And I think you and some other members of the base operations team know that I was pretty resistant to bringing scoring into the platform for a while because I felt like there was a lot of bad scores out there, just methodology that was overly simplistic. And I eventually came around to the utility of it because it is so important to have a quick heuristic for decision making. And we got to a place as a company, as a team, where we felt compelled to add a much more comprehensive score with much more thought that had gone into it. And I'm super excited about how it turned out. So what does scoring look like in an ideal world? And, how will industry leading teams utilize scores?
So I think we kind of touched upon these in your previous questions. I think comparative scores really is the future. And this isn't necessarily comparative just to a national average. These are global companies with global footprints, global travel that's occurring. So really being able to contextualize that score is super important. Being able to really define what's most important to you, whether it's unrest, whether it's violent crime, property crime, depending on the type of location that you're looking at, is super important. And then I think being able to get down to the sub-mile level with your score. I think that's something that's really profound and really makes a difference when you're talking about things like understanding what's happening close to home. What I'm hoping to do, through the rest of the time that we have here is really be able to show what that looks like for things like site assessment, for executive protection, for travel, how teams can really easily leverage this, and then how they can take it outside of their own, organization and more broadly to their leadership teams or other stakeholders. And so I'll be talking about that utilization and our approach to it much more in the demo.
Okay, well, I won't use our viewers anymore. Go in, Eric.
Sorry to interrupt. I want to amplify just because this whole idea of comparison, and Corey, your idea of a simple heuristic, right? When we talk about articulating risks, concerns, threats, it's very easy for people to understand a comparison to something they already know. Hey, this neighborhood that we're looking to operate in is just like this one we're already operating in score-wise, right? So that ability to articulate the concerns based on a simple comparison, I think is a really, really sound concept. Yeah.
Totally agree. I feel like that's a good lead in, Sasha, into giving us an overview of base score and then digging into a demo.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's just a couple of things that I want to cover. I think you kind of gave a preview with your last question. We really did think about this as a new paradigm to scoring, taking out the good parts of sort of the old way, that directional information, that singular score, but then being able to update it to make it really resonate with sort of the modern world. So we do continually update base score. It's updated monthly, and we do take in data that feeds that score on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So not only are we updating it with the most recent information, but we're passing that along to you for that directional take. With this, we are providing sort of unparalleled granularity and coverage. It is a global solution to comparative scoring, and we are able to provide it at less than a mile radius, taking in 10,000 plus data sources in order to be able to compute this. And then we do offer a lot of transparency and explainability, and I think that's a big difference between what you've seen in the past. Because we do have, all these data sources, we're able to provide supplemental analytics as well as being able to customize that score. And that really kind of creates a profound experience. And then beyond that, when we're thinking about use cases, we really wanted to make sure that this score could be used across all sorts of needs within the physical security space. And so when we were thinking about this, we wanted the functionality not only to be available in the application, so that, again, you could get that single pane of glass, but also via API. So if anybody is curious about how this can be leveraged within, any dashboards that you've created currently where base score could really be advantageous to use, you can always reach out to us and talk to us about getting access to the API. But ultimately, what we want to do is make your assessments easier and then make your prioritizations as easy as possible, meeting you where you're at. So with that, I'll jump into the platform and show folks what it is that we're talking about. So here we're in the base operations platform. I have a couple of saved locations that you can see here on the map. We're looking at about a half-mile radius for this location. And what we're really going to be talking about is, site assessments. Let's say that your real estate team comes to you and says, hey, we're thinking about having a merger and an acquisition that's coming along, and we want to see how that office space compares to the office space that we're currently in. So with this, when you land on your saved location within the platform, you'll be able to see the base score here on the right-hand side alongside your percentage change. And with this, you're always able to change your radius to whatever level matters to you, and be able to get that new score. When you wanted to be able to do the comparison, you're able to easily click over to your other location and see that there's about a 10-point difference in your base score. One thing that's really nice about base score is an 82 is an 82 is an 82, whether you're looking at that at the radius level, at the district, city level, if you're looking across cities, which we'll be doing here shortly. With this, you're also able to have a sort of free roam experience. And this was really important to us. One thing we heard was that everybody loves maps. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that there was a map experience so that people could really contextualize that score on the map. And this is a great way to talk about how we're able to actually calculate the base score. So here you'll be able to see these hexagons. All the hexagons are the same amount of area. And what we've done is we've normalized them for population. And then what we take into account in order to get to that score is the severity of the threats that have happened, and then the events that have happened, and then on top of that, the number of events that have happened per severity. And that's how we're able to come up with the base score. Again, it is a 0 to 100 score, with 100 being the highest threat level that you might be experiencing. And then with these, we start to take into account, how much of the area is covered by each of these hexagons in order to come up with that 82 score for this particular location. With this, we are updating it monthly, as I've mentioned in the past, and then we also have it available for the district level in case that is something that you're curious to be able to look at, or at the city level. So you can see here for the city of San Francisco, we have a base score of 73 overall, and that's a great way to compare your different office sites to the overall boundary of the city. With this, we have also talked about how to be able to contextualize this score to you. We still offer a number of different pieces of analysis, and that includes the ability to refine what it is that you're looking at. Let's say that I only want to understand, violent crime that's happening in the area within the city of San Francisco, and I would be able to see the counts of what's occurring here as well as trend lines. We can see that's heading down, and we saw that with the change as well. But beyond this supplemental information that we're offering, and comparison within a city, let's also take a look at Knoxville. And with Knoxville, we can take a look at what our office might look like in that location. And this again really sort of reflects on the fact that, does somebody really think about comparing Knoxville to San Francisco? Maybe, maybe not. But oftentimes with your footprint, it is important to understand how you might be able to prioritize these different locations. So we saw a 92 and we saw an 82 for those locations, and we can see that this Knoxville office location is a 74. This means that we're not requiring as much insights, or maybe not as much monitoring, because it falls out of that 80 and below. Maybe we're not taking a look at it on a monthly basis, but we're going to be looking at it on a quarterly basis. And this really helps refine where we're spending our resources. In Knoxville, we also put a couple of locations on the map that are related to travel. So we do have a hotel here. It's 65. And let's say that, one of our executives was also going to a gala at the Museum of Art. We're able to see what the base score is here. And again, contextualize it to the event types that might be occurring, as well as any trends that are happening in the area. So really being able to predict and prevent incidents from occurring. The final thing that I'll touch upon with base score for this demo is our country level analysis. We are offering a 0 to 100 base score at the country level, and rather than looking at it by event types that you see here on the left-hand side, we are offering insights from these different country level threats. And with this, you're able to drill down into each of these, and we are using a different set of 7 different sources in order to create this level of country-based score. So really you're able to drill down, whether it's location to location, city to city, country to country, offering really the full gamut of scoring. And again, that directional, contextual score that will help you speak, not only within your team, but outside of it. And with that, I'll conclude my demo and we can move on to the Q&A portion.
Awesome. Thank you, Sasha. I know a lot of people associate based operations with super granular latitude, longitude based intelligence, and like moving to the country level is, again, something that we wanted to wait until we could do it right. And we're super excited about offering more country level scores that are very meaningful and come from well-regarded sources. So, Danny, thank you for helping us moderate the Q&A. Has anything come in?
Yeah, two questions. The first question was for Eric. The question is around prioritization. And for those companies who aren't using tooling today, what's their mechanism or rubric for prioritization?
Yeah, even if there's not a real tool that they're using, it depends on whether there's tribal lore or actual systematic way of doing it, but there's still some risk register that somebody has. Where are my assets located? What are we generally exposed to? And then tracking threats against those concepts. So the main thing is understanding the exposure, the degree of exposure, and the degree of resilience to the things that you may be threatened by. If you're running a saline bag plant in Puerto Rico, you're a whole lot more exposed to hurricanes than you are if you're running a call center or a back office work in the Philippines, where you might be more exposed to, well, also typhoons, but also earthquakes and other seismic activity. So depending on where you are, you'll have either a manually captured risk register or one that's based on lore. But most companies still do have that. It's more effective to have a tool and a workflow and a process that is well articulated and able to keep track of all that stuff. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Eric. And Sasha, there was one question from the demo that you did, which was great. The audience wanted a little more explanation around what the hexagons are inside of the map.
Sure. Hexagons are, we work really closely, the product team and our data science team. And one thing that they recommended is the best way to be able to offer a comparative score is to be able to hold some things constant. So the two things that we wanted to take into account and hold constant to really reflect things like number of event and severity of event were the area, which is where the hexagons come from, which then allow us to normalize the population. So we are taking a sort of proprietary approach with how we're modeling crime against those hexagons, but the hexagons represent a standard area, about 7/8 of a mile, and we can apply that across the globe so that we can get that comparative experience.
Great. Thank you. Those were all the questions that came in.
I'm going to throw a curveball at Sasha. So I think the universality of the base score is super important. But as you know, we also get a lot of requests for, hey, my company is completely different than another company. Like, why would we use the same score? Can you preview the roadmap a little bit and sort of how we would deal with those very different use cases?
Yeah, I appreciate this curveball. Right now, we do have sort of an out-of-the-box weighting for our score. So, for instance, we treat violent events 3 times, they're weighted 3 times heavier than things like property crime. What we want to do is bring that weighting to our customers. So again, we're using something that's sort of out of the box, but if property crime is actually much more severe to you and you want to weight that higher per occurrence, we'll be allowing you to do that. We do have a couple of other things up our sleeves, but I think that that's a good reason to get in touch with us for what our roadmap looks like. But just know that we want to continue to emphasize customizability and really make sure that we're presenting a view that's the footprint of your organization, and allowing you to prioritize it and weight it according, to your own tribal lore or programmatic rubrics that you have.
Cool. Love it. Well, I think it's a really good reminder that if you're interested in learning more about BaseScore, please book a demo. The easiest way to do that is on our website, or you can email info@baseoperations.com. And as a special incentive, we are offering some exclusive end of the year promotions. If you feel like you're ready to take the next step with us and get this feature, BaseScore, into your regular operations for your security organization. So I think, we'll let people out of here a little early. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that the session has given you, insight into BaseScore and where we're taking it here at Base Operations. As we've discussed, BaseScore provides security teams with actionable insights, a heuristic for decision making and policy setting, empowering them to make faster, more informed decisions and proactively manage risk. So again, thank you all so much for joining. We look forward to supporting your journey at your security organizations and helping you build resiliency. So stay safe, and we hope to connect with you soon. Thank you, panelists.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.